Welcome to Honestly Speaking, a podcast where we have honest conversations about the issues shaping our lives. I am Antonia Howard, and today it's just me and you. This episode is a moment to pause, to reflect, and just talk about why this podcast exists, why I'm doing it, and the things we've explored so far, and where I hope we're headed together. Because I don't want, honestly speaking, to be something I record and you just listen to. The goal is for the podcast to be a mirror for us, for Sierra Leoneans, to see ourselves, to talk, to hear ourselves, to challenge ourselves. I know so many of us are thinking deeply about Sierra Leone, about what's not working, about the things that could be better. About why things are the way they are. But we're not always talking about it, at least not in a way that's structured, that's honest, that's public, and rooted in real understanding. I think if we approach topics, conversations with the intention to understand, we may begin to see some of our issues differently. And that's when we can find real solutions. So I created this podcast as a space for those conversations, to bring to light the beliefs, behaviors, mindsets that shape our national experience. Because not every problem is about politics. Sometimes it's how we're raised, it's what we're taught to value. Some things are personal, some things are cultural, some are inherited. And in the episodes so far, we've started to uncover some of those deeper truths about our identity. The guests have been very honest, unafraid to name the things that make us who we are as Sierra Leoneans, for good or bad.
So I think we almost celebrate struggle and survival in a way, which is like, we don't go through this. Tell God thank you. And when you meet someone, part of that psyche is, first things you ask, how do you up and down? How do you have back? I'll tell God thank you. That is a very, very Sierra Leonean thing.
Yep.
So I think part of our mindset is one of survival, day at a time, some lack of planning, and it moves on to just almost outsourcing execution to faith.
The different parts to it. There's a role that the home plays. Like, I really don't want anyone to discount that. And then there's the role that society plays, like a collective, in shaping the mindsets of our current and future workforce. So if you have a child, and whether you're literate or illiterate, what values do you instill in that child? What values in terms of self-development? What values in terms of being a good citizen? What values in terms of contributing to society? What values in terms of what future do you want to see for yourself?
It's not just streaming based on disciplines, by the way, that's problematic. It's also streaming based on abilities, which quite a number of schools still do in Sierra Leone, right? The top students, top of the set, are put in one class. And what happens with that is those who are the bottom of the set, they internalize that. We are the bottom of the sets, we are 1E. And even the teachers themselves have that, right? Now, there are arguments for it that, okay, with the fast learners, you go fast, right? And if you just put all of those who are slow, or you understand, would work with them, but not really.
We don't really pay attention because they're doomed already.
So you're going to 1E, you get, sorry for you. You're in trouble, you understand? Wherein if we put people together, mix their abilities, right? More collaborative work, they can help each other.
This bra you body attitude, I see it so many times. A lot of artists reach out to me and be like, hey, this, I want day under you, I want this, I want that. You know me mentor, you know me this, you know me that. And as much as I like the fact, say, what they do, they inspire other people and they draw people towards me. Not so that they want to make me work do. I want to make way young artists then see me, then see they're able to learn by example, rather than they can ask me like say, oh, let me get the source. I don't want to make you see me as the source. My entire career, they basically say not to one person get the source. Yeah, that's one thing. When you see you biggest inspiration, the most important thing for doing is for learn by example.
In as much as the system can take its own fair share of the blame, young people as well should own up to the responsibility. Antonia, nobody no get for can like you destiny and you success pass you. There's no way. Your individual success is entirely on you. The knowledge of understanding the resources available online. Boku young man and young woman, we go school, we tech savvy, they don't want to know.
Again, you have a lot of young people online. A lot of these young people, they don't come from a good community. And by good community I mean a community that values all the things that we think in a good thing, like honesty, integrity, excellence, hard work, blah, 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 blah. So, but waiting then sabi, with some party there, now like palava and this. So now then boku online. Anytime then see palava. Waiting when you're in school. Okay, let me just give you exactly what's happening online, okay? Where you be in the primary school, where two people they want fed, waiting they happen.
They go get that day.
Oh man, they can't get that. Like, hey, then they can't fed. Even the one that way not be dated, then they go call them come, then they can't fed. But is the fighting good?
When it comes to the people you see where ignorance, you see issues of despair and poverty intersect. So where you have ignorance, poverty, despair, and survival intersect, they just do because there isn't any direction set. I mean, they are in Freetown to survive in any way. So they basically say, you know what? Capitalize on it. I can squat here.
The things they're supposed to be learning in school, even some of the teachers were not raised in that way, so they cannot pass on those values as well. So however they've been treated growing up, what have you, is basically how they're going to treat customers when they get to the workplace. And that is what we're seeing now. The other thing I find is Sierra Leoneans are traumatized. There's this deep-rooted issue, whether it's from the war, whether it was before and we hadn't noticed it because we were children, whatever it is, there's something going on with us. And we tend to, first of all, there's this thing where people don't feel like there's dignity in what they're doing, right? There's also a lack of respect for self, for others, what have you. And people are also tired, sad, depressed.
Salon people, then we get vibe. We just live in vibe. But again, what is the value, right? What is the customer experience? What are you creating so people can go back and be like, oh my gosh, I want to come back and do it again. It's adding different elements. It's doing things different. And also just raising the standards, right? I think we live in a lot of mediocrity. We're ready to just be like, oh, not for this, so make us so no bold. You're doing too much. You're doing this. No, raise up the standards. Give excellence.
Small picking, not woman, small one.
Yes,
woman is small one.
Yeah, woman is
so
small one.
If you have internalized that, and you see anything that happens to a woman sexually, whether they're sexualized or whether they're sexually abused, you think, well, she can handle it. She's a woman. But so you can see the victim blaming that went on. They were called all sorts of things. Why were they there? Nobody questioned, why will a 57-year-old man be even talking to a guy like 15-year-old girls and even harboring them in a house? So it shows how deeply the society is, how patriarchal the society is, and how deeply people have internalized those discourses around women's bodies. So women's bodies are available. That's why somebody can just touch you anyhow and thinking that she's a woman, she's available. And so you can see that the value that is placed on girls. Because if you really, we have all these laws and you can open your mouth and say, those things that people said, then there's a problem.
And so, honestly speaking, I hope that we continue to uncover some of those truths, and then we can unlearn some of the things that are holding us back and learn to do better, think better, lead better. Another reason for, honestly speaking, for the podcast is to promote accountability. Sometimes when we talk about accountability, most times we talk about governments, leaders, institutions, but I want this to focus on us, because these systems that we complain about don't operate in a vacuum. We are the system, we're part of these systems. It's easy to complain about customer service, for instance, or institutions that fail us, but we don't often ask ourselves, what role am I playing in this? What have I accepted? What have I enabled? What have I repeated? So I wanted this podcast to be a space where we can see things a bit more clearly, see that we're not separate from the problems that we criticize. And if we accept that we're part of the problem, then we can accept that we're part of the solution. And we can also begin to take responsibility and act like we're part of the solution.
It comes down to something very, very, very simple. We need to build better institutions. And I don't think citizens can do that. I think what citizens can do is hold the institutions to account and give them the tools to hold the institutions to account. I think of the phrase, leadership is not power. It's about planting a tree that provides a shade that you will never get to sit in. I think you have to do both in tandem. Help build really, really strong institutions, strengthen governance. And I know there's efforts to do it. We have an ACC. We have so many tools that people are helping us to push to be able to help you submit complaints. Like yesterday was the first time I knew that if I wanted to complain about a teacher or an education professional, there's a portal for me to do so. So these tools exist. They're not utilized. They're not adopted. And I think we as citizens need to call on those in power to just build better institutions. And we need to champion people who we think foster values that can keep those institutions sustained after they leave.
When we're talking about human capital development, it's education, health, and for us on the continent, food security, agriculture. So it's making sure that child that's born today accesses, not only access it, but has quality education, is healthy enough to go through the learning process and can sustain itself. So those three elements, if we invest in them consistently, adequately, making sure we're inclusive, not leaving anyone behind, then we're on the path to grooming a productive population, a productive workforce. So once we have that, I envision a Sierra Leone wherein the learners have the skills, have the access to not only thrive in the formal workspace, but can also be creatives, can be self-employed, but can also access opportunities outside Sierra Leone without leaving Sierra Leone.
Education is a leading and a lagging indicator, which essentially means education, it can predict the future. So you and I will agree that if Sierra Leone invests in education today, we're going to be more economically developed. We'll live longer. Some of the policies that some of our governments are moving with, which yes, they would have agreed with at UNESCO or the global partnerships for education. Those people, by the way, are doing a lot of good work, but sometimes it just doesn't fit our context. And so we have to recognize that certain things we have to move slowly with certain things, and we have to put more investment in other areas, because even with Sierra Leone, the reason why people want to be lawyers and engineers and doctors is because even our parents, Sierra Leone education being fine and all that, but it was very colonial, and we were being taught so that we could serve the colonial masters. So now we have to think about, that's why creativity is important. Be literate, right? But creativity should be as important as literacy. The The literacy would help you so that you can know how to write your contracts, you can know how to pitch your business, you can know how to market. But that's as much as you need, right? Those basic skills.
For make you make money from a record label, all your artists then go need for sign 360 deals, which will later on come with problem.
As we've seen.
Exactly. Because if you not bring enough in, then you owe the person, you're in debt. And when you want your freedom now, you feel so you can just grab and go. No, somebody don't invest the money, you understand? Yeah. It's really hard. I feel like one thing we could change a lot in the Sierra Leone entertainment industry is if we approach stuff independently, at least for some time, enough for make you able to know your role. Make somebody not come do what you able for do for yourself and claim 80% or 70% of your couple just because you can't do something where you don't spend extra hours for learn and do for yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, one golden advice. Actually, that can be the only advice. This bra you body, so you get for inherit somebody in fan base, or you go come, they on that person just so you make them. Maybe for what things other people want to achieve, it work for them, but I don't think it works in Sierra Leone.
As a young person, to make it in Sierra Leone, you therefore be determined and serious for serious. Don't expect anybody, your relatives, your parents, don't expect government or anybody to take your life, your success, more important than you. Nobody can told you matter and aid, pass you, where you matter. Just learn a skill. And the thing about skills, it stays with you, even if you travel out of Sierra Leone. I know one day a person say, me, I make too much money in my life. I want to stop for make money. One day I know a person talker. Learn as many things as you can. You would enjoy the soft life. Put in the work first. Make the money. Where the money come, brother, sister, you want for the go Paris and back on vacation? Well done. But the first thing what you do, begin to work on your financial independence. Redefine what success is. Success is not based off of the industry you're working. Success is based off of how independent you are financially. That's what being successful is.
We just need to spotlight our people and what is good. Because when they talk about Salonge, Diamond, and these things, I can always say no. Our biggest assets, our biggest jewels, our biggest resources are our people. And if we don't continue to pour into our people, this will continue to not be fine. But if you pour into our people, you uplift them, they'll keep finding reasons to solve the problems that can make one small corner find small. We're like, this person don't got. No, that's what we need. That's what we need.
Often we see ourselves as this very tiny, minute thing within that major environment. And we say, there is nothing we can do. Nothing. We don't mean anything to it. It looks like we are this tiny little drop of thing in the ocean. But then every little action impacts it. There has to be a very strong understanding from the community level all the way up towards government, and then government taking it back into the communities, people beginning to understand their individual responsibilities when it comes to the environment, but also understanding about sustainable living. How can we be more sustainable? We have to come to a point where government leaders, community leaders, and others have to come to the honest, realistic reflection and introspection that if we continue on this unsustainable path, one, we may not have anything left. Second, the consequences will be huge for our generation. And then our next generation, our children, grandchildren, and others may not see anything left. And we may actually be passing on to them sort of very bad and dangerous type of environment that they may not even, find it a thing for them to thrive.
The moment people embrace equality, because it's not sameness, like you said. I mean, it's not about being the same. It's about having equal access. It's about equity. So if you have a job, let's compete and let's get it. And where does quota come in? Because at times, as we are, we need quotas for women to be able to catch up. But the moment they catch up, then you don't need quotas. So that's where the level playing field comes into play. But as it is even now, open that space so women also have the opportunity to do it. And so women really have to stand up for other women in those spaces. You see women that are the only, or they even like, I'm the first. I don't even want to hear that I'm the, what is it? That's not an achievement. So for me, it's when you're there, creates the space for other women to enter. And so that when you see us every day, it becomes normalized. But when it's always the token woman, then it becomes problematic. So when in Sierra Leone, we embrace equity, we embrace that women have rights, and things will change.
The podcast is not just about talking, it's not about venting, and it's definitely not just for content. I know some topics might be entertaining, some guests may be funny, some clips may go viral, but that's not the main goal. The goal is community. The goal is movement, a shift in how we think, how we act, how we show up in our lives, in our homes, our places of work, and in our country. So if one episode makes you rethink a choice or helps you speak up or gives you the words to explain something you've always felt, then the podcast is doing what it was created to do. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's contributed, everyone who's listened, shared, reflected, reached out. This is just the beginning. If something speaks to you, share it. If you disagree with something, say so. And if you have a suggestion for topics to cover on the podcast, then share in the comment section or send a message. And let's keep talking with clarity, context, courage, honesty. This is Honestly Speaking. Thank you for being a part of it. That's it for today's episode of Honestly Speaking. Thank you for listening and being a part of these important conversations. If you've enjoyed today's discussion, please like and share. And if you're feeling inspired, do leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. And of course, carry on the conversation online. Share your thoughts, experiences, and ideas using #HonestlySpeakingSL. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay honest.